Hi, everybody. Welcome to Christian Homestead. My name is Jared. We have a new Second Coming related quote that comes from this article from Church News. Church announces new missionary approach at Temple Square. I saw this on Facebook. There's a friend of mine that served a mission at Temple Square, and she was talking about this change, and it stuck out to me because Temple Square has always had a special place in my heart. I was born in Utah. I grew up there, lived there all the way until the beginning of 2012. And I always loved going to Temple Square. One of my favorite things is the sister missionaries because they have their missionary badges with their name and the name of the church, but they also have the flag of the country that they're from. So it's a very unique place to go if you want to meet somebody from another country. And it was especially fun after my mission that I could go there and there was a chance I would come across a sister missionary from Spain. And then I could practice my Spain Spanish with her in, a Spanish accent. And so, I don't know, I've always enjoyed geography and languages. And it's such a unique place. And so when I saw this, I was like, okay, what's going on? Is that going away? Because they are making a big change to Temple Square. But it's an exciting change, and I think it has to do with the second coming. All right, so this article is by Trent Toon, Mary Richards. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is adjusting how sister missionaries serve at Temple Square to enhance the guest experience and increase missionary opportunities as the church prepares for the anticipated Salt Lake Temple open house in 2017. Sister missionaries will continue serving on Temple Square, but will now be assigned to a surrounding mission, sharing their time between a teaching area and Temple Square. This approach mirrors successful models used at the 13 other temple visitor centers worldwide. Okay, so you get that? So I'm not that familiar with how things go on Temple Square. I do believe that people coming to Temple Square, there's always that chance that they'll decide to join the church. I think a lot of the time, these sister missionaries, they refer investigators to other missionaries outside of their mission. It's obviously very valuable, but I think there's more opportunity if you have these sister missionaries. If you have all these sister missionaries also serving outside of Temple Square, it's more missionaries is the point. I think that's what this boils down to. More missionaries that are actually out there and fishing and hunting for investigators. So before we continue, I've added this to my spreadsheet called Timeline Missionary Work. I also added it to this one, Timeline Preparing the Church for the Second Coming. This is a spreadsheet where I'm trying to document all these big changes, the ones that have been happening ever since President Nelson became president of the church. And it seems like it's just continuing into President Oak's presidency. Lots and lots of big changes. Let's go back to the Timeline Missionary Work spreadsheet. So here's the quick rundown. There's been a lot of things happening over the last few years that have made it so that there's more missionaries. Okay. So we're going to start. Okay. Well, back when President Monson was president of the church, there was the famous lowering of the age, which resulted in a surge of missionaries, which you can see here in column F. It went from 58, actually about 59,000, all the way up to 83, and then it peaked at 85,000, and then it started to come down. Then, in President Nelson's first year as president of the church, he introduced the concept of the Lord's Youth Battalion. Shortly thereafter, we had the pandemic, which made the number of missionaries go down. But then, May 6, 2021, this is only new to this spreadsheet. I already had it on the other one, but I realized I needed to put it on here too. We had this change. I'm just going to read what I wrote. Based on area presidency direction and approval, eligible members of the church anywhere in the world may now be considered for a senior service mission, according to a letter from the First Presidency. Previously, senior service mission assignments were only available to those living in the United States, Canada, and a limited number of other areas. That's something I didn't know, but obviously this resulted in having more missionaries. More missionaries. Okay? And that's what happened with lowering of the mission age. More missionaries, and missionaries going sooner. The Lord's Youth Battalion, I'm sure that excited a lot of people, a lot of the youth. Okay? And then this change with senior service missionaries. And then in the April 2022 General Conference, President Nelson made a request for more missionaries. And there were a lot of other talks that were focused on serving a mission. And then we got the second edition of Preach My Gospel in 2023. 2024, there were 36 new missions created, which brought the total to 450, the highest number in the history of the church. And then November 1st, 2024, there was another change to the qualifications or senior missionary work. Single men 40 and over can now serve as senior missionaries. So I think up until this point, you had to be, well, I don't know if you had to be a couple, but whatever the case, I wish I knew more about this, but obviously it made it so that there'd be more missionaries. And then after President Oaks became president of the church, October 24th, 2025, the mission age for women was lowered from 19 to 18, which is obviously going to result in another missionary surge. He did say, and I did a video about this, that he wants this to give sister missionaries or potential sister missionaries more options, and they can plan things sooner and potentially get married sooner than if they had waited until 19 or later. So helping young adults get married younger, because that's a concern of his. Okay, and then we have the news that we're talking about right now, the discontinuation of the Utah Salt Lake City Temple Square mission, which is going to result in more sister missionaries actually out in the field and not all just at Temple Square. And then starting July 1st of this year, there's going to be 55 new missions created, bringing the total to 506. And now that's the highest number in church history. So you put it all together, more and more and more missionaries, and missionaries leaving sooner on their missions. There's definitely a hastening. So let's go back to the article. Sister missionaries will continue serving on Temple Square, but will now be assigned to a surrounding mission, sharing their time between a teaching area and Temple Square. This approach mirrors successful models used at the 13 other temple visitor centers worldwide. Elder Ronald A. Rasband of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles spoke about the adjustment in a morning devotional with 128 sister missionaries of the Utah Salt Lake City Temple Square mission in the Joseph Smith Memorial Building on Friday, January 9th. The sister missionaries reacted to the historic news with audible gasps. And they caught that on photo. Look at that sister missionary gasping. And then there's another one. She's crying. They're hugging and crying. There's another one down here. Oh, yeah. We got 3 of them gasping. Look at her in the background. She's really surprised. Okay, Elder Rasband, who chairs the Missionary Executive Council, acknowledged that the sisters were feeling a wide range of emotions. Quote, "I bear witness that Heavenly Father and Jesus Christ know you and love you," he told them. He testified that the Lord is hastening his work. All right, so here is our second coming related quote. In this case, it's paraphrasing. I wish we had the actual quote. I searched some of the other news websites that ran a story about this, but they didn't have the actual quote. But this is good enough. And so I put it on my spreadsheet for quotes, or it's called Quotes Second Coming. And the topic is the hastening. The hastening just keeps coming up over and over and over again. Whether we're talking about missionary work, whether we're talking about church education, seminary, institute, the giving machines. I have a quote on here that talks about the giving machines being part of the hastening, family history, temples, everything is just hastening. Oh yeah, the new hymns. I have one here that talks about the new hymns and how that's part of the hastening. Church finances, part of the hastening. BYU pathway worldwide, part of the hastening. Youth, new hymns, giving machines. Yeah. So I'm telling you right now, I have not heard as much use of the hastening phrase as I have since I started this channel. Things are definitely hastening, and this is just the next thing. Quote, "This is the Lord's work. You are part of it," he said. "You are the pioneer sisters who will begin this now. Others will follow you for years now in this new model, but you are the first ones." Okay, later on, as Elder W. Mark Bassett, a General Authority 70 and Executive Director of the Missionary Department, outlined the adjustments and offered further explanation on Friday morning, he testified to the sisters that, quote, "This is a wonderful opportunity," end quote. Elder Bassett was president of the Arizona Mesa Mission, which included the Mesa, Arizona Temple Visitor Center. I miss that place, especially during Christmas time with the Christmas lights. So he saw firsthand the blessing of sisters serving both in teaching areas and at a visitor center. While this adjustment has been in the works for a long time, quote, "This was given to us from heaven." I love that. It's just another confirmation that the Lord guides his church. You guys, don't slip into the frame of mind that it's just men, that this is like the church is run by a bureaucracy. There's too many people I've noticed that have that frame of mind. And I feel like it's as a result of not having developed a testimony of the restored church, that we have prophets, apostles that have been called by the Lord and that he speaks through them. But ultimately, the source of what goes on in the church comes from the Lord. It's inspired. Okay. I want you to know that this work is led by the Savior, Jesus Christ. This comes from the Lord. And I can promise you it will be an incredible experience. End quote. In coming months, sister missionaries assigned to the Utah Salt Lake City Temple Square mission will be reassigned by a member of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles to one of the surrounding missions. This transition is expected to be completed in July. So again, we kind of already saw that on this spreadsheet, but so we have two big things happening in July: the discontinuation of the Utah Salt Lake City Temple Square mission, and then the 55 new missions that are going to be created. And one of those is going to be here in the Kansas City area. Before now, it seems like that area was mostly within the Missouri Independent, or what would it be called? Missouri Independence Mission. But now some of that area is going to go to this new mission, the Missouri Kansas City mission. Okay. At which time the Utah Salt Lake City Temple Square mission will be discontinued. Okay. As part of this adjustment, some return missionaries will be hired. Okay, so they're going to hire some people now. Some returned missionaries, so I guess that's a qualification to be hired for this position, will be hired as part-time guides to work with the sister missionaries in enhancing the guest experience. So if you're in Utah and you're a returned missionary, or you know somebody that is, this might be a good opportunity to work as a part-time guide at Temple Square. I would totally do that, but I'm in Missouri now, so it's not an option for me. I'm serious. I would probably do this. I love it when I run into people here in Missouri at the church sites, because I'll usually give them a tour of what I know. I love doing it at Adamonte because there's so much more to see there than what you realize. Okay, with missionaries coming from multiple missions to serve on Temple Square, More will be available during major events and peak visitor periods. So this is where the Salt Lake Temple open house comes in, because earlier it said that part of the reason why is it has something to do with the renovation and rededication of the Salt Lake Temple and the open house. So I guess instead of like having a limited number all throughout the year at Temple Square, you're going to be able to draw from like all these different missions around, like in and around Salt Lake. So the I guess the pool of potential sister missionaries will be larger. And so they can adjust, like it says here, according to major events and peak visitor periods. And I seem to recall when we went to Nauvoo last year, we went there a couple times, but we were talking to one of the sister missionaries, one of the young sister missionaries. And she said something like they serve there for a certain amount of time as guides. But then like during the winter, they go out and they serve in like another mission as like full-time teaching missionaries. So they're not there when it's not peak season. I don't know what it's like in Nauvoo when it's not peak season, but I can tell you here in Missouri, like everything dies. Every time I drive by the Independence Visitor Center, there's like no cars there. In the summer, at any given time, if you drive by the temple lot, you're almost guaranteed to see somebody walking out of the visitor center and then across the street to go to the temple lot, but it is just dead right now. So I don't know what it was like at Temple Square. I mean, they obviously have peak seasons and times when it's slower. So if you have any knowledge of this, let me know in the comments below. Were there times at Temple Square on your mission, if you served there, that it was just like dead? Okay, well, such as, I'm going to continue, such as the summer months and the Christmas season. During times of lower visitor traffic, missionaries can focus more on ministering in their assigned teaching areas. Okay, now, this sister right here, Sister Kai, I could be wrong, but I think that I ran into her when I was in Utah at the end of September last year. It's actually a really interesting story. I don't know if it was her, but I did run into a sister missionary from Taiwan. That is Taiwan, right? Taiwan flag. Yes, it is. I told you that I like geography. So let's just do a quick little tangent. I was invited to come to Utah for a social media thing. And I was like, well, like, should I spend the money to do this? Like, I don't know. It made sense to go for a few different reasons. For the social media thing, also to see family, also to get more footage for my other channel called Explore Church Sites. And I felt pretty good about it. We prayed, we thought about it, but I just always want that confirmation from the Lord. Well, the day before we left, so the last time that I was in Utah in 2024, I went to another social media thing and I met Stuart Edge. He is a member of the church. He has this YouTube channel. His name is actually Stuart Edgington, but his channel is called Stuart Edge. He's like a Generation 1 YouTuber, and he has a huge channel, 2.41 million subscribers. So I met him in 2024. I was surprised to find out that he occasionally watches my channel. I was really happy about that. And then last year, as I was debating whether we should go to Utah again or not, the day before we left, guess who I ran into? Stuart Edgington. He was at the Independence Visitor Center. I was recording the visitor center because they were like redoing their roof and there are all these pallets outside and I wanted to document it. I realized, I should go inside and ask the missionaries in there just to know exactly, what's going on, get details. And when I walked in, he was right there at the front desk talking to one of the senior missionaries. It turned out he wasn't planning to come to Missouri. He went to Nauvoo and then he missed his flight. He had a lot of stuff going on. He had like a really good good time in Nauvoo, but he misses his flight. So he decided to drive down to Missouri, and I ran into him. And so I took him to the Eight Witnesses Monument, and it was like a big confirmation to me, like, yes, like definitely go to Utah. Well, we go to Utah, and on our last night there, my wife and I were at Temple Square, and then we were walking back to where we parked, over like in the avenues. And so we were walking past the church office building. And right about here, we ran into, and I don't know, but I think we ran into this sister missionary and another one. And when they asked us where we were from, we said Independence, Missouri. The other sister missionary that had an American flag, she gasped. She was like, oh, and I was like, whoa, why is that so exciting to you? Well, it turned out that she is from St. Joseph, Missouri, and she just was not expecting to meet anybody from Missouri, I guess, that night. And we had a really good conversation. And that was basically our last interaction in Utah before we left. And it just felt like kind of a bookend thing, running into Stuart Edgington. And then as we were leaving Utah, we ran across the last sister missionary, the last person that we talked to in Utah. And she happened to be someone that was from Missouri. And St. Joseph isn't too far away. I think it's like about an hour away. I've been there before. I think it's about an hour. So it's just, these tender mercies. And if this is her, then that makes me really happy. Okay. Later on, Sister Clara Alba from Barcelona, Spain, where I served my mission, said now she will have the chance to serve the church members in other parts of Utah. Quote, I truly believe that the Lord is preparing his church to grow even more. I agree with her. I think that's what this is all about, is all hands on deck. I feel like that's what this all comes down to. All hands on deck. Remember what President Nelson said. Let's go to my second coming spreadsheet. Exponential, right here. I've read this a million times, but it's stunning that he said this. This was November 1st, 2018. And he said, we're just at the exponential phase of growth. And I don't know if that's from just projections or if it's revelation or both. But he said we're just at the exponential phase of growth. And so if you know that you're at the exponential phase of growth, then what would you do as president of the church? You'd probably say all hands on deck. And so it seems like that's what we've been seeing in an orderly way, in phases. Just, it feels like every so often, like every few months, a few times a year, we hear news of, okay, now you can go on your mission sooner, or, oh, now you can go on a mission. We're opening this up to people outside of the US and Canada. And now we have all these new missions to serve in. It feels like an all hands on deck moment. So I truly believe that the Lord is preparing his church to grow even more. I'm very happy. The opportunity to serve other people in other places brings me great joy, she said. Temple visitors centers around the world also use a model where sister missionaries serve part of their day in a teaching area and part of their day at the visitor center. I think that's how it's done here in Missouri with those sister missionaries. Meanwhile, missionaries at historic sites spend the first 4 months of their missionary service there before they move on to a teaching mission. And then I think that's all. Look at those faces. Oh, they're so shocked. So I don't know. Exciting times. I always ask, what's the next thing going to be? But I know that there's going to be a next thing, and it's not just going to suddenly stop. There's a trend. We just keep getting these big announcements. The Temple Square mission, I felt like that was something that would just always be there. And I guess it's going to continue, but I imagine that it would just like stay the same, that there wouldn't be any changes to it. And yet here we are. All right, well, that's going to be it for this one. I'll talk to you guys later.